Hello, it's Drake. I just wanted to show you guys a couple books that I've found recently that are really interesting and you may not have heard of them before. So this first one here is one of those print-on-demand editions of the works of Thomas Otway. And as you see here, he was alive from 1652 to 1685, which puts him he's born about 40 years after Milton was. But he died around the same time, and that's because, he didn't live very long, and Milton lived to make it to old age. But Thomas Otway, he was a fairly successful restoration playwright. He was in the same circles as Aphra Behn and Lord Rochester. John Wilmot, the famously lascivious one. And it's kind of surprising, that he's really not known anymore, because he did write some interesting stuff. One of his plays, Caius Marius, was based on Romeo and Juliet, and for about 70 years outsold Romeo and Juliet, which is, pretty neat. I think there is something to do with that, though, where they only allowed certain plays shown, like they banned some, so I'm not sure if that's like a completely accurate representation. But yeah, the most interesting play of his, if you see the table of contents here, so one of his most famous ones is The Venus Preserved or A Plot Discovered, but the one that's most interesting to me is The Atheist, or the second part of The Soldier's Fortune. So The Soldier's Fortune was one of his most famous plays, made him a lot of money. So there's this idea that people have that The Atheist was made just to cash in on his previous luck. But one really interesting thing about The Atheist here is that it has a very convoluted plot that the convolutions don't seem to justify themselves. But it is also very funny, if you see this here. Hi ho, boy, imp, where art thou? Here, your pleasure. What's your pleasure, sir? What is it o'clock, boy? Sir, in your world, by computation, I guess it may be afternoon. A very pretty little rascal, this, and a very extraordinary way of proceeding. Yeah, and there's oh yeah, this one's a funny one too. Bogard, where art thou? Ah, dear damnation, I was just now heartily wishing for thee. Such news, such tidings, such a discovery. Ha, what's the matter, man? Only 56 virgins apiece for us, that's all. Pretty little blushing opening buds, you rogue, that never had so much as a blast of masculine breath upon them yet. What's here? A banquet ready? Nay, then, I am satisfied. Never were heroes so enchanted as we are. But where are the virgins, daredevil? Oh my gosh. See, it's just so goofy, and it's really surprising that the restoration plays aren't as common nowadays, because they're so interesting. You'd never imagine people in the past writing like that, but they did. So that's the first one, Thomas Otway. And the next one that's really interesting is also a print-on-demand edition. The works of John Marston. Now, John Marston, you may know him because he co-wrote a really famous play of the Elizabethan era. He co-wrote Eastward Ho, which also was written by George Chapman and Ben Jonson. George Chapman did the famous Homer translations, and also, if you aren't familiar with him, you should check out George Chapman's early poetry. Ovid's Banquet of Sense. And yeah, they're really neat. And of course, Ben Jonson, probably the second most famous Elizabethan playwright behind Shakespeare. But that's not what I want to focus on right now. The writing of his I want to focus on is something called The Scourge of Villainy. So, John Marston was a satirist, and he is famously a Juvenalian satirist, which means, his satires were very caustic, and he didn't hold back anything. And you'll see this here, very literally. I cannot, I endure to view a big-wombed foggy cloud immure, the radiant tresses of the quickening sun. Let custards quake, my rage must freely run. Preach not the Stoics' patience to me. I hate no man, but men's impiety. My soul is vexed. What power will resist, or dare to stop a sharp-fanged satirist? Who'll cool my rage? Who'll stay my itching fist? But I will plague and torture whom I list. If that the threefold walls of Babylon should hedge my tongue, yet I should rail upon this fusty world that now dare put in to Jehovah but a conventure, to shade rank filth. Loose consciences free from all conscience, what else hath liberty? As't please the Thracian Boreas to blow, so turns our airy conscience to and fro. What icy Saturnist, what northern pate, but such gross lewdness would exasperate. I think the blind doth see the flame god rise from sister's couch each morning to the skies, glowing with lust. Walk but in dusky night with Lynceus eyes, and to thy piercing sight disguised gods will show in peasant shape, pressed to commit some execrable rape. See, it's quite strong stuff, and that's just the beginning of it. It goes on for quite a while. So if you're interested in really striking and caustic satires from the Elizabethan era around Shakespeare's time, I believe The Scourge of Villainy was published in 1599. And you can find these print-on-demand copies. I think this one was maybe like $10, and this one I think I got really cheap for like $6. And of course, you can also find them in PDF online. That's where they get these print-on-demand ones from. But yeah, if you're interested in these, or if you've read them before, let me know. And if you know anyone like them of the same time periods, let me know too. Yeah, thanks for watching. Death is a gang, boss.